Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Gregory, Accounting 667 Advanced Audit. I want to go over the assignment for week 1, which is the benchmark ethics case, just so that we all have an understanding of it. So in this assignment, you're going to go into a peer-reviewed journal. And as we discussed before, peer-reviewed journals can be Journal of Accountancy, CPA journal. I'll also allow the fraud magazine or an approved website, such as U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission violations. And I want you to go in and find an article that was written about any one of those occupational frauds we covered in Chapter 1. But make sure that it occurred in the last 2 years. So we want something recent. Now, review the article before you determine that that's going to be the article you're going to use, because you have some required information you have to put in there. And maybe not all articles are going to have everything that we need. We only want one instance of occupational fraud. So if the article has 2, perhaps they did financial statement fraud and maybe bribery, then just pick one of those to discuss. You don't have to discuss both of them. But this is not a general discussion on occupational fraud. This is on one specific case. You might want to use the GCU library or ask the librarian if you need some help. And when you get ready to set up your assignment, write this, making sure that you have headers in your document, in your Word document. That will help me to make sure that I see everything that you've written. It also helps you to make sure that you stay organized and on topic and you don't miss anything. So here are the following headers I want you to use. Have an introduction to your paper, which introduces us to what the requirement is and what the case is. Then a header on the key facts of the case. What was the fraud? What were some of the ethical aspects? Maybe there was a lack of tone at the top. Maybe there were behavioral issues going on in the organization or the person. Who was involved? You might not have people, but you might have positions. So what were the positions or the people involved? What went wrong? What happened in that case? What did they do? And finally, how was that issue discovered? Now, this is probably going to take you a couple of paragraphs. Then I want you to discuss what were the internal controls based on your reading that created this fraud. Could it have been a segregation of duties issue? Could it have been an authorization override issue? Maybe they didn't secure their physical assets. Maybe they didn't monitor or have audits regularly. What was it within the internal control structure that allowed this to happen? A conclusion. And a conclusion in a paper is a summary of your paper. It's not your personal opinion of whether or not people were right or wrong, or what you believe should have happened, but it's just merely a summary of what you wrote. And then you want a reference list, and the reference list is going to be on a separate page. So, introduction, 1 paragraph, introduces us to what we're going to read, the key facts of the case, 2 to 3 paragraphs. Internal controls, 1 to 2 paragraphs, depending on what the internal controls issues were. Conclusion, 1 paragraph, and then your reference list. Now remember, we want a separate cover sheet for this. And make sure that the references are on a separate page. To do that, you can go in and insert a page break after you're done with your conclusion, and that will automatically drop you down to the next page. We want your references as close to or APA's 7th edition. And when you list your references, don't forget that you need to format your references in the hanging indent. If you have questions, reach out. Make sure your in-text citations are in APA edition. Now remember, I've given you a cheat sheet to help guide you on both in-text citations and appropriate references. Strive for solid graduate level writing. Develop your paragraphs using the meal plan. Use appropriate language and terms. Now, if you need some help, the Student Success Center has some great tutorials, tips, and an APA style guide. And the last thing I want you to do is make sure that you review the rubric before you submit it and check off, did you hit all of the elements within the rubric? Because I have to score to the rubric. So I am looking for the same thing. So make sure that they're done correctly and complete so that you get the maximum points possible. If you have any questions, you can post the class questions for the good of the class. You can send me a Halo message, and you can reach out and schedule a Calendly appointment with me if you need to discuss it further. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the classroom.